Self-awareness is a superpower. Welcome to Soul and Vibration. Before we go into this video, please give it a thumbs up so that you can help this channel to grow. You'll be so surprised how much of a difference it makes. Let's get into the video. Lilith and Sagittarius. So, Sagittarius is ruled by the 9th house and the planet Jupiter, which is expansive. Sagittarian energy is all about higher learning. It's about philosophy, it's about religion. It's mainly just about expanding one's mind and taking something to the next level. So it's like graduating high school and then, going off to college, growing up in your local community, which would be Gemini, the opposition, and then going across the world to learn about someone else's culture. So it's pretty much expansion on basically, it could be your education, just overall expansion. Sagittarian energy is all about expansiveness. And Lilith, the Black Moon Lilith, talks about suppression. It talks about vulnerability. It talks about injustice. Lilith is not an actual astrological body, planet. It's basically a point, a void, a shadow in the sky that is created by the moon and the earth. So I think about the practical element of the earth, and I think about the moon's ability to project. So that brings me to the whole idea of wherever Lilith is in your chart, just know that there's a lot of projection there. And the projection will actually feel real because you'll be projecting on something tangible. So with Lilith in Sagittarius, Sagittarius having to do with long distance travel, you might find that it's later in life that you felt comfortable with leaving your community or your small town, your siblings or whatnot, because basically wherever Lilith is, there is suppression there. So with Lilith in Sagittarius, I think about the opposition, which is Gemini, and I find that I understand the Lilith energy so much more by understanding the Gemini energy. So someone with Lilith in Sagittarius would be someone who is very comfortable with their basically community. So growing up, you may have been extremely comfortable with your immediate community, your siblings, and things like that. So for a while, it may have took you a long time to feel comfortable enough to leave your hometown or to leave your country and to, come across the world and live somewhere else. Because I know people with Lilith in Sagittarius who's from another country, but it took them a very long time to develop, maybe in their 30s, to be brave enough to develop that side of themselves, to take that jump. And of course, there's other placements within their chart that's going to support them making that move. And then it comes down to the reason why a person needs to get away. Some situations are so detrimental where a person needs to run away from where they're from because maybe they can't breathe or whatever. So, this energy could be activated sooner than later. But for most people with Lilith in Sagittarius, you might find that, you may gravitate more towards your immediate community. You may gravitate more towards your culture and what you learned growing up, what you learned in your household, what you learned in school. You might find that college is something that's challenging for you. It's like, even though you go to college and you're getting a degree and whatnot, it might take you time to get your degree, or you might never even make it to this area of your life because of the comfort that comes from being in your immediate surroundings. This could be, from in your small town, your community and whatnot. Another thing with Lilith and Sagittarius is that these people tend to, it's like basically when it comes to philosophy, history, and even things that we call facts, I feel like you guys are the kind of people that would say what I say. A fact is a collective agreement. So when it comes to philosophy and certain things like that, you might not appreciate it the same way other people might, because you are aware that this is someone else's opinion that we all agreed upon that is now made into something that we all have to learn, something that is now considered a fact or the rule or the way of being. You know, with your Gemini opposition and you being comfortable in your community and with the way things run there and how things have always been, you might also hate the idea of being exposed to something that basically kind of, it doesn't diminish what you were taught growing up, but it's almost as if it's like, I don't know, like, how would I put it? It's like I'm having a visual in my mind, but it's finding the words. It's almost like, say, for example, you know, someone else comes in with their culture, their way of being, and it's like learning it is going to take away from your own. So that's another thing too that I see with Lilith in Sagittarius, is that basically it might take you time to get into other people's cultures, other people's religions and things like that. And you might never get into it. It might be something that for whatever reason you just don't find interesting. You're more comfortable with your immediate community surroundings and whatnot growing up. Another thing too, it's like with Sagittarius and Lilith, you might find that you're culturally suppressed and not really aware of other people's cultures. So it's like, basically it's like you might be someone who date outside your race, but even though you date outside your race, you don't really know too much about the race of the other people that you date. You might date outside your race for whatever reason, but at the same time, you might have a hard time relating to their cultures, their religions, and their ways of doing things. It sounds really contradicting, I know, but I know a few people with this placement who date outside of their race, outside of their race, religion, and whatnot. But even though they do, they're not really interested in that other person's race or culture, the way how Sagittarius, raw Sagittarian energy on its own would. Because normally Sagittarian energy on its own, to me, wherever it is in your natal chart, basically your focus is on the opposite. You know, that's because the Sagittarian, the symbol for Sagittarian energy is the bow and arrow, and the bow and arrow is pointed away from you. So basically that's your attention pointed away from you. So that's why naturally people strongly associated with Sagittarian energy tend to discover themselves in things that are outside of themselves. Where in this situation, it's actually the opposite. Even though you might date outside of your race or religion and whatnot, you're still way more comfortable with things that are familiar. So you can come from another country and you're living in a totally different country, but you might, on your Facebook feed, you might completely engage in everything from your country, even though you no longer live there, but you feel a sense of security and comfort focusing on that aspect of your life, focusing on that familiar part of yourself. And I find with this placement, it's like, say if for whatever reason you don't get along with your siblings or there's an issue with the sibling, this could really affect you in a negative way, because again, with Gemini opposing Sagittarius, there's a lot of emphasis on Gemini energy, and that could be the importance of having a relationship with your siblings and having a connection with the community that you're from. So something to think about with Lilith in Sagittarius is to challenge yourself to be more curious about cultures outside of your own. Like, it's not enough to date someone that's a different race or religion of yours. Try to learn about their religion, learn about their culture. Try to spend time with them around people who are more like, try to spend time with people who are from their religion, race, and things like that, because you'll find that it'll help you to expand your mind and even learn more about yourself, and even positively affect your relationship by allowing yourself to get deeper into their culture, their religion, and their ways of doing things. You don't have to conform completely and lose yourself in them, but I feel like you would learn a lot about yourself and open yourself up to more experiences that could be learning opportunities and fulfilling if you allow yourself to open up to their differences, their ways of doing things, instead of keeping yourself isolated in your own community, own culture, and basically the norm that you grew up with your whole life. Another thing too is philosophy, religion, and things like that. I really like the fact that you guys are the type to say, you know, a fact is a collective agreement. Why do I need to believe what that philosopher said? That's his opinion. I really think that's a good thing, because it's good to question things. I guess the negative aspect of that is sometimes, you know, of basically completely shutting the door to someone else's view or way of being, like completely shutting the door to it. Like, say you might have strong number 9 energy in your chart, or Libra rising, or strong Libra energy in your chart. That might make you entertain a person for the sake of getting along, but really not absorbing anything that they're saying. And I'm encouraging you to be open to the point where you are entertaining and observing different ideas. I feel like this can only add to who you are as a whole, and, you know, make you more textured, make your life a little bit more interesting and more exciting, and help you to get out of your own head. And basically, instead of focusing on, you know, certain things in your life, that making small things in your life bigger than they are. It's like being open to the world and what's happening in the world with different cultures and things like that can help you to pretty much get out of your head, you know, where with some people may suffer from depression to where they have issues with, what is the word? I'm not remembering it, obviously. Suicide. I'm not saying people with this placement is suicidal, but I find that, and I'm not saying suicidal people are this way, but I find, you know, focusing on bigger things outside of yourself can help you to realize that maybe the things that you focus on that depress you aren't even that big in the first place. You know, I hope that makes sense. I felt like I said a lot, or I try to say too much to give the point. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you were able to understand this placement even more. Please like the video, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.